Hey friends, welcome back for another guitar tip. Today's tip is all about the guitar capo, and we're going to talk about the capo specifically in regards to how classical guitarists use it. We'll talk about common mistakes, when it's absolutely necessary to use a capo, but before we dive in, my analytics tell me that about 70-80% of you who watch my videos regularly aren't actually subscribed. So please do subscribe, it helps me greatly, and you'll get notified every single time I release a video, which is about every week. So first, my favorite capo is this G7th capo. This is not a sponsored thing at all. I just discovered this, 15 years ago, and I love it. But let's cover now some common mistakes that I see even from professional guitarists. The first common mistake I often see is this. What's wrong with this picture? If you look closely here, the capo is not in the right spot. Just like when we play the guitar, when you fret a note, it's not that it's all fair game here. There are correct places to play and incorrect places to play. The correct place to play a fret inside of a fret is all the way to the right, not on top of the metal, but just to the left of the metal. And if you play too far to the left, like in the middle of the fret, for some reason people seem to think that that seems to be a good spot to play, it might buzz, especially if the guitar is not well set up, which might be likely. If you play on the left side, you're almost guaranteed to make an unpleasant buzzing sound. So the Goldilocks zone, the place which is perfect, is all the way on the right side, not on top of the fret, just a millimeter to the left. And the capo follows the exact same rules. So when you put a capo on, let's say I'll put it on fret 2, make sure the capo is as far to the right as possible, not on top of the fret, but just to the left of the fret. And then test the open strings. If they're really buzzy, try to adjust the placement of the capo a little bit. Move it around and see if you can find a spot, or increase the pressure until the open strings sound as clean as not capoed. By the way, my guitar is tuned down a half step at 4/15 pitch. This is often called Baroque pitch, in case you're wondering. The next common mistake I see is the following. Tell me what's wrong with this picture. The capo is not parallel to the fret. This is not going to work because the lower strings are going to sound good, and it's very likely that the top strings, which are slanted on the left side of the fret, are going to splat and be buzzy. Just for the same reason that when you play a string, if you play on the left side, it'll be buzzy, and the right side's clear. The capo has to be parallel to the metal fret. So when you're putting it on, I often actually change the angle of my guitar, like so, and I make sure it's parallel all the way to the right. You get the right amount of pressure. Test with some chords. If everything sounds good, you're good. The last common mistake I see is that people don't recheck their tuning once they capo. Because we are stopping the strings at a point further down the string rather than the nut, it's very likely that because of the placement of the capo, even though we try to make it parallel and as far to the right as possible, that we might find our strings are slightly out of tune. So once you do put the capo on the guitar, do check your tuning again with some chords. And recheck your tuning once you've capoed. Now, as I mentioned, sometimes classical guitarists are required to capo. When is that? Well, when we play with singers, the capo is our best friend when it comes to transposing. Transposition is when you take a piece which is in a key, like C major, and you move it up to C sharp major or D major. This is so great for playing with singers, because when you accompany singers, very often the singer is going to request higher or lower keys than written in the music. And the capo is amazing. Pianists are so jealous of us for our capo, because for pianists, if they're playing in C major, that's just white keys. If you say now play in C sharp major, now it's going to be on the black keys, it's going to be a much harder key, much more work. But for us, if you're playing in C major, basic campfire chords, to play the same thing in C sharp major, all I have to do is capo the first fret and play the exact same thing. So easy. I actually have a full CD of Schubert songs. Franz Schubert is one of my absolute favorite composers. People don't know that Schubert actually published dozens of his famous Lieder, German songs, originally for guitar and voice before publishing them for the piano and voice versions, which people know and love. But so I did a whole CD of Schubert songs. It's called A Wanderer's Guitar. You can find a link in my description under CDs where you can download it if you're interested. And on that CD, it was absolutely essential to have a capo to move songs around to fit the singer's voice. The baritone on the CD, Ryan de Rijk, who's a wonderful human being and singer, has his own instrument. Each singer's instrument is unique, and they have their own range, their own tessitura, and so having the capo is an absolute must. So that's it for today's video. Go forth and use your capo wisely. If you enjoyed today's free guitar tip, please do subscribe to my channel. It really does help. I also have a Patreon where I have like 23 other tips that I've already uploaded there. If you want more guitar tips that aren't here on YouTube, you can go to Patreon, become a patron, and you'll get access to tons of perks like early viewing on all my videos, behind the scenes content of what I'm doing, updates, and guitar tips. I also have lots of educational material online. I have a music school with teachers who could teach you on Zoom weekly. These are expert teachers that I trust. These are colleagues and friends of mine. Taking weekly lessons is the absolute fastest way to progress on guitar. And lastly, I have 2 online courses. These are self-paced courses that you can take at home. One is Classical Guitar Pro, which teaches you from the absolute beginning to your first guitar recital. And then there's No Nail Guitar in 10 Days, which is a course where I teach you how to play classical guitar without nails on your right hand. So thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.